Hello there. Welcome in to a Tuesday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening on your radio, streaming the show online at extrasports1300.com, or you've downloaded the Extra Sports 1300 app to do your listening. And that app, which is free to download and free to use, is brought to you by Diversus Health, mental health, and well-being for all, a veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. You could call or text into the show. Keep that number handy as well, because I have a plethora of tickets to give away. Air Force football, switchback soccer. So if either of those two events on Saturday interest you, keep an ear out. And keep that number handy, 719-247-1313. If you did not join us yesterday, you did not know that there was some different programming on yesterday, and that was the switchbacks in this makeup contest against Charleston. So for our purposes, today is Monday. The main topic of conversation is what happened over the weekend. We are not moving towards the Giants game yet, because this is our Monday on a Tuesday. So treat it as such with your Broncos-related takes, and Avs too. Get to the Avalanche. But let's start with the Broncos, okay? So not great on Sunday, obviously, from the offense. Can I just start by saying this as a blanket statement? We have got to stop, and I'm saying this knowing full well that it's never going to happen. We have crossed the Rubicon, and it's only going to get worse from here. We have got to stop sending our regular season NFL games to Munich and to Sao Paulo and to London. I would say at least you're in this half of the globe in Sao Paulo, so maybe that's okay. I don't have a problem with the games being played in Mexico City. We got to stop going over the Atlantic. Because I don't know, have you watched one enjoyable game in London? One. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite team in the game or not. Have you watched one enjoyable NFL game played in Europe? Because I haven't. It's terrible. And there's this, and look, I'm a soccer guy. Okay? So I do, on occasion, get up early on the weekend to watch the highest level of soccer. Okay? But I know that if I want to watch the highest level of soccer that there is in the world, I have to get up early. That's what I have to do. But I shouldn't have to also do that to watch the best football, American football in the world. I should be able to get up at a decent time. I have been wired to watch football at 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. on a Sunday. And the fact that I got to get up at 7 a.m. on a Sunday to watch a game that I know for a fact is going to be terrible. It ruins my entire day. In Sunday's game between the Broncos and the Jets is an extreme example, I grant you, but it's not that out of line for every single. Watch this Sunday. Rams and Jags, going to be a terrible game. It's not going to be enjoyable. And yes, part of the reason why it's not enjoyable is because you're watching it at an earlier time than you have been programmed over the course of your career, your life, to watch football. I hate it. And the product suffers because of it. They don't know the difference over there in London. Okay, and let me compare this to Premier League soccer. I've seen teams from Europe come to the United States and play. The games that they play don't count towards their record. They are called friendlies. They are exhibitions. You get to see all the big names, right? I remember going to a Manchester United match against Roma at Empower Field. It was a very enjoyable experience for me. You know why? Because I don't get to see Wayne Rooney and other Manchester United players up close and personal, right? Same logic applies. You want to grow the game, you want to tap into that fan base that you have over there, and you want to send our best football players over there, that's fine. I don't have a problem with NFL expanding globally. I have a problem with the NFL taking games that matter and giving them to Europe. That's what I have a problem with. Just why can't teams go play preseason games? And I know the NBA and NHL are starting to dabble in this and play regular season games, but right now, like, teams are going over to Abu Dhabi. I have no problem with that. You want to grow the game? Take your games that don't count and send them over there. Because the product suffers greatly almost every time. I can't remember a single compelling NFL game played in Europe from start to finish. I can't. And the game on Sunday, I wanted to, I put cigarette butts out on my chest just to distract me from the terrible football I was watching. It was horrible. And part of it too is I don't know that it's fully the Jets or the Broncos' fault. I think that there are some, like, at the core of it, this is who these two teams are offensively. They're not good offensive teams. Okay, they're not going to sling the ball around the yard. They're not going to light up the scoreboard. Neither one of these offenses will. But it makes it even worse when they have to go play in London. Right? And then you sprinkle in the fact that Aaron Glenn is familiar with Sean Payton, the scheme he likes to run, and that's why you get this very ugly defensive slugfest on Sunday, which is not the type of football I like to watch. I don't. I can appreciate what the Broncos defense is doing, and they are dominant, and they might be in terms of getting to the quarterback historically great. But it does not make me enjoy the game because I want to see two offenses that look like they are capable of competing at the NFL level. And we didn't see it from either one of these two teams. And I blame London first and foremost. I don't think that the way that the Broncos looked on Sunday is as bad as they are. I don't think it's an accurate representation, which is my big point here. We send these teams over to Europe. It completely screws up their routine. They're the most, routine-oriented sport that's out there. Right? They play on Sundays. They don't play, every other day or have second night of a back-to-back. They don't do that stuff. They're the most regimented sport that we have. And you're ruining that by making them travel clear across the globe and having to do all of that stuff. So I don't think that the Broncos offense is as bad as they showed on Sunday. I think London has something to do with it. I think Aaron Glenn has something to do with it. But at its core, the Broncos offense is it's like me. And maybe you are like me, which would make you like the Broncos offense. When I arrive every day here in the office, I have a to-do list. I have an order of operations. I know what I need to do at each specific time. And if I get one thing that throws off my schedule, I get I lose my mind. It's one of my flaws. I can acknowledge that while telling anyone that is close to me in my life that I will never change. One little thing that throws off my daily schedule will ruin my entire day. And I apologize in advance because I had some of those things today. So this entire show might be terrible. I apologize in advance. I need my time. I need my time to prep. I need my time to do this. I need my time to sleep. I need all of this stuff just so, or else I don't do well. The Broncos offense is like me. You get one Matt Peart. Is it Pert or Peart? The guy filling in for Ben Powers. You get one holding call and it completely short circuits the Broncos offense. They can't do anything. We've been talking about this. We've seen this before. It went away in the fourth quarter against the Eagles. It wasn't there in the first half against the Bengals, but it's popped up at times in every game. This Broncos offense is just not capable of rallying on a drive. Everything, they have to start off on the right foot. Like, after I drop my kids off at school, I got to go get my coffee. If I don't get my coffee and I just drive straight into work, I'm going to be a nightmare to deal with. Broncos are kind of the same way. If they don't get off to a good start on a drive, if they don't get that 4 yards to start off the drive and get into a 2nd down and 6, it's a wrap. There's no way they're doing anything with that drive. And you see it time and time again. But when the Broncos are on schedule, when they get that first down run that gets them 5 or 6 yards, now look at all the other things that they're capable of doing. And in the second half, Bo Nix talked about it, what the big issue was with them.
We weren't in a very good rhythm at all. And, first half, we were going quick, getting the ball to different players, spreading the ball around, getting them in certain defenses where we get softer coverage. And then, obviously there in the second half felt kind of like the opposite. A lot of run-heavy looks, a lot of loaded boxes, and then just complete lack of rhythm.
And the word rhythm has been brought up a lot this season. So as much as the Broncos have, moved forward and things are much better surrounding the Denver Broncos than they were, 3 weeks ago, the issues that plague them early in the season are still plaguing them. You just have a half against Cincinnati and a fourth quarter against Philadelphia where it was better. And what you hope if you're a Broncos fan is that they can continue to expect them. And I'll be honest, I was kind of throwing this out late last week as the expectation. I probably shouldn't have done that. I forgot how terrible the NFL in London is. So I shouldn't have been like that to the Denver Broncos. This week, perhaps, or are we still worrying about the hangover from London? Maybe 2 weeks when they play the Cowboys? But at some point, we've got to see the Denver Broncos put together a full 4-quarter performance. Okay? We're still waiting for that. Maybe it wasn't fair to put that on them for London. But the issues that have been plaguing them throughout the season continue to do so. They've just been able to button it up at the exact right time. So the issues that the Broncos offense has, those were on display in London, but they were exacerbated by the fact that you had a defensive-minded coach on the other sideline that knows Sean Payton very well. That counts for something. And the fact that this game was being played in London. And what do they say? The two things that travel, a run game and a defense. That's what travels. And this is the furthest that either one of these teams are going to travel or at least the Broncos. I don't know the mileage with the Jets. But with the Broncos, this is the furthest they're going to travel. They brought their defense. Their defense traveled. But the Jets brought their defense too and geared up to stop the run. And the Broncos couldn't establish that run in the second half. And they ended up winning an absolute rock fight of a game. And it maybe ruined your Sunday. But this is who the Broncos are. Just made a little bit worse given the circumstances on Sunday. Take your thoughts on the Broncos' performance or lack thereof. I mean, we can focus on the Broncos' defense if you want, because the defense is incredible. Incredible. Offense is not, which is hard to figure with Sean Payton at the helm. 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. Comedian Tom Segura is bringing his Come Together tour through Colorado Springs. He's going to be at the Broadmoor World Arena Sunday, November 9th. That's less than a month away. Get your tickets now. Go to extrasports1300.com. Tom Segura, very funny comedian. Very much looking forward to seeing him here in Colorado Springs in a few weeks. I don't like NFL regular season games going to London. I don't. And it seems like the sentiment from a few of you is that you don't either. This one, 719-247-1313, by the way, if you want to jump in. Completely agree. In no world should games that matter be played across the Atlantic. It's probably throwing more people away from the NFL than bringing them in. I don't think, I said this in the first segment, I don't think they know any better. And I'm not saying that that sounds like I'm insulting them. I'm not trying to insult them. I'm really not. Do we know, are we, maybe I shouldn't say that they don't know any better. I think that the experience outweighs how bad the game is. And I'll go back to my example of Manchester United and Roma playing at Empower Field. I don't know that it was the highest level of soccer, right? The highest play. I don't know if these guys were locked in. I don't think they were. It was a preseason friendly. There were players in the game that wouldn't normally play. Like, I fully acknowledge that I wasn't watching like a meaningful match, midway through the season, right? But I enjoyed so much the fact that I was getting to see those clubs in person that it was okay by me. I think that's the better way to put it. Instead of saying they don't know, people know what good football looks like, but I think a lot of people over in Europe are just excited to have the event. And it's okay if the football that they're getting is not played at its highest level. And that's my point. Why can't preseason games be played? Why do we have to give them? This isn't anti-growing the game. This isn't anti-Europe. But it is clearly impacting the product. And there are certain times, and every league is faced with these decisions at times. Do we chase the almighty dollar, which, hey, we live in America. That's okay. I have no problem with that. But there are certain cash grabs that affect your product in a negative way. And I think this is one for the NFL. And my idea, which I think is a good one, if I may say so myself, we don't want preseason games, right? We don't care about them. Why don't you send preseason games over there? Why don't the Denver Broncos go on a barnstorming tour across Europe? Play one preseason game in London, then go to Rome, and then go to Munich, and then come back here for the start of the season. Why do they have to send games that count? And I'll look at it from both of those teams' perspective that play. For the Denver Broncos, you're coming off the biggest win you've had in years, right? And I do think being away from some of the noise was beneficial for the Denver Broncos. But they also kind of wanted to show like, hey, they wanted to build off of it, right? I didn't see them building off of it. And from the Jets, they're having a hard enough time figuring out their stuff in New Jersey, and you're going to send them to London to try and figure out their stuff. It shouldn't be regular season games. Just shouldn't. Now, again, I'm not talking about Mexico City. You want to play a game in Mexico City? We saw one of the finest football games we've ever seen between the Rams and the Chiefs years ago, played at Mexico City. That was amazing. Or was that the game they moved to LA from Mexico City? I don't have a problem with staying in this hemisphere, but going across the Atlantic, I think it's a problem. Dave says, I'm more embarrassed as an NFL fan that the first Broncos drive was considered a fumble and not looked at, while the Jets fumble that was overturned was closer to a catch. As a London casual spectator, it would be confusing. We'll just add on top of it. The referees, was that their best performance? I don't think it was. Albert says, how many undrafted defensive tackles from the Mountain West Conference have a passport? The logistics of traveling preseason are daunting. What you have to explain to me the difference. Like if the schedule is the schedule, let's say, and by the way, college teams are moving more and more games overseas, right? Kansas State and Iowa State just opened up in Dublin. That was game one. Is there that big of a difference between game one of the season and a preseason game? I know college doesn't play preseason, but you get what I'm saying. Like, the calendar is the calendar. If the Denver Broncos were slated to go over to London in August, then it would be on the multi-billion-dollar company known as the Denver Broncos to make sure that all of their players had a passport. And Sean Payton last week talked about how many guys didn't have a passport. I promise you they would have gotten their passport by August if the trip to London was in August. I don't think it's a logistics issue. Or it shouldn't be. I'll say that. It shouldn't be a logistical issue. And I get it. It's for them. It's for the people in London. It's for them to experience the game and become fans. And I am all for it. And I would love for them to get on board with this awesome sport of football that we love. But you can do that by just sending Patrick Mahomes over there in August for a preseason game. You don't have to send teams over in the midst of a season where they're grinding away, especially this part of the season, right? The race to get better that Sean Payton keeps talking about. I think that race to get better kind of took a bit of a hit, a bit of a step back. The Broncos offense I'm talking about, or even the kicking game. Sean Payton talked about the kicking game not being great.
We're going to be upset about the pre-snap fouls, the holding, false start, on a 3rd and 1. I think there's going to be a number of things that we're going to look at that we have to clean up with. And obviously that starts with me and our coaching staff. And I felt the same way in the kicking game. I felt we lost that battle. And fortunately our defense, played well enough for us to get the win.
And I think that's an understatement. Defense was spectacular. But that's what they say, right? What travels? Run game, defense. Well, the Broncos defense made the trip. But the Broncos offense, the side of the football, mind you, that the Broncos need to improve the most, that has had the most issues through the first 6 weeks of the season, they didn't look any better against the Jets. In fact, they looked worse than they did a week ago. And I would imagine that many NFL teams, fan bases, media types are lamenting how poorly, how bad their team played over in London. It's just, to me, it is not necessary. You could grow the game. You could accomplish all of these goals by not sending these incredible, and we only get so many, right? And I understand I didn't have as big of a problem with that when we were just sending over the Jaguars, if I'm being 100% honest. But now that like it seems like everybody's going over there and there are more international games through 6 weeks of this season than there have ever been, it's impacting more teams. And the idea that they're going to put a whole division over there at some point, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And I think the game on Sunday, more than anything else, was a direct representation of how bad the product gets when it is exported overseas. Let them do that during the preseason. 719-247-1313. We'll continue this conversation. I want to open it up to the entirety of the NFL because after last night, do we know who's really good? Like in the NFL, do we know who's good, I think. Do we know if anybody is really good in the National Football League? We'll have that conversation. And do you really not know what a good power play looks like? Nathan McKinnon thinks you don't. But coming up next, we'll visit with our reigning, defending Extra Sports Athlete of the Week, Anaya Wright from Rampart High School. You're listening to Extra Sports 1300. Welcome back. Drive Time Sports. Our extra sports athlete of the week continues this week with some new nominees. But before we spotlight them, I have the pleasure of speaking to our current reigning defending extra sports athlete of the week. She garnered 67% of the vote last week, and for good reason. She has had a spectacular season, helping the Rampart Rams volleyball team to a 15-1 season so far with 190 total kills and 25 aces. Anaya Wright is my guest. Anaya, congratulations. Did you hear, was there a buzz in the hallway about getting out the vote for you this week?
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me. First off, I have been walking around school, and there's been a lot of people coming up to me talking about congratulations on getting athlete of the week. So yeah, I have been getting buzzed in the hallway.
Oh, well, I got to imagine that feels pretty cool, but it also, I've got the things that people have sent into me saying about you. So if you don't mind me embarrassing you for a moment, Anaya, we'll read some of these. She works so incredibly hard and is an amazing teammate. Another person said she brings so much energy, is so reliable when it comes to scoring important points for her team. Another one says she's an intense, kind, compassionate, fire teammate who can smash the ball and is amazing. Phenomenal player, amazing athlete, strong and competitive leader. When you hear those kind of things, whether they, and I don't know who specifically they came from. Some of them sound like teammates, maybe coaches, maybe just Rampart fans. When you hear that kind of stuff, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, honestly, it makes me feel like I have support behind what I'm doing. I think I couldn't be here without my coaches, the players that support me and give me the fire that I put onto the court. I also feel like I'm my own competitor, so I always compete with myself and try to be better and do better than what I did last time. But it makes me feel really supported that I hear that from my peers and players.
Anaya Wright, my guest, one of the phenomenal players for the Rampart Rams volleyball team. There are a lot of them. That's why they're 15-1 this year. Let me ask you, Anaya, how are you a better volleyball player than you were last year?
Yeah, I think from last year, I wouldn't say I was hesitant, but I feel like I've grown into an athlete that tries to find ways beyond just being hit all the time. I feel like I've built my strategicness, and I feel like that's kind of got me farther this year.
How much work did you have to put in to unlock that in yourself this summer?
Yeah, well, I kind of play volleyball year round. So I'd say just practicing and making sure that I listen to the small details that coaches are giving me feedback on. But I'd say I don't go into practices just thinking it's another practice. I go in trying to think that in a couple of weeks I want to be the best that I can be. So I train for that in practices and stuff.
Where's that? I mean, it's all obviously a credit to you because you're the one that's actually putting in the work, but where does that drive, that internal drive come from to get better every day?
Yeah, I'd say my dad is a really good person that wants me to drive because he was also in sports, and I feel like continuing that and how he did in college, I want to be the best that I can be. And I feel like I kind of drive in my mindset, I think of scenarios and I'm like, okay, I want to do that next and I want to be that next. So I feel like just definitely my dad and how he played, I just want to continue on his legacy, I guess.
What sport do you play?
He played basketball at the Air Force Academy.
Oh, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Has he ever stepped across the net from you to receive one of your spikes or receive one of your serves? Does he get on the other side of the net from you?
He'll talk about it, but he's scared to. So no.
And he, let's be honest, he has every reason to be a little bit hesitant, right?
Yeah.
Anaya Wright, my guest, she plays for the Rampart Rams volleyball team. And you talked about how you're a better player, but you know this, being as team-oriented as you are, if just Anaya Wright was better this year, the Rams wouldn't be 15-1. How much of a step forward has your entire team taken? And I see a lot of the players you've been playing with are now juniors and seniors. Do you guys feel like you've taken a big step forward this year?
Yeah, I'd say also the same thing with practice, but I feel like we have a really good team chemistry, and I feel like that drives us to want to do better. And we've had we just want to put like a Rampart effect on people. So I feel like that's the drive that really gets us going. But I'd say we're all stepping up to like the plate, and we do our jobs. And I feel like that has taken us a long way, as our record shows.
Just 15-1. I guess I have to ask the question, Anaya, what happened against Cheyenne Mountain game 1?
Yeah, honestly, I would just say that was kind of like our practice game. We were all kind of getting to know each other, how we played, and there was a lot of learning that we took away from that game. And I feel like after that, we went into practice and we were focused and we worked on that. And I think that's been carrying us through our games.
And you guys haven't just been winning. You guys have been dominating, at least in terms of the number of sets that you guys have been able to win. Pine Creek, to their credit, has given you guys some problems, but here you are again, twice in just a couple weeks, being able to get past that team. How much does that help you guys as the season winds down to be tested the way that it seems that Pine Creek has been able to?
Yeah, I'd say the Pine Creek games always teach us a lot of lessons. I feel like we go in there with like a very high competitive aspect just because it's our rivalry game.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when we go into like the 5th sets and 4th sets, that we already know like we can pull it out because we've been in situations that have called us to be in that. And I feel like it's really just like our energy and the support that we have behind each other that really gets us through like those tough challenges in like 5th sets.
Well, and you on an individual level were incredible. 19 kills in that match against Pine Creek yesterday as the Rams continued their 15-match winning streak, and now they'll turn their attention to Liberty. Just a few games left in the regular season, and then Rampart. I would imagine, Anaya, that you guys envision winning the last match of the season and hoisting a piece of hardware. Yes, that is the goal from this team.
It is, yes, definitely.
Well, you guys are looking formidable and looking like one of the contenders for that at the end of the year for sure. Anaya, really appreciate you taking time out of practice to join me. Congratulations on a well-deserved honor, and give my best to the rest of the Rams. You guys have been incredible this season, and I'm excited to see what you guys have in store once the postseason rolls around.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your show as well.
It is my pleasure, Anaya. Appreciate you taking time. That is Anaya Wright of Rampart, our reigning Extra Sports 1300 Athlete of the Week. Yeah, those Pine Creek, both of those Pine Creek matches, I said a couple weeks. They played a month prior to that, but both went down to the 5th set with Rampart beating Pine Creek 3-2. I mean, it goes without saying we have some incredible volleyball teams down here in Colorado Springs. Our Extra Sports Athlete of the Week nominees for this week, if you are curious, if you did not see on our social media, Michael Berry of the Doherty soccer team, Karina Ariano from the Palmer Ridge softball team, Jack Walton from the Discovery Canyon tennis team, and that was a really difficult one because the entire team there at Discovery Canyon could have been nominated. They made a bit of school history, but Jack Walton, he was the one singled out and nominated, and then Rayanna Somerville of Fountain Fort Carson volleyball. She was terrific against Vista Ridge with 17 kills. So you could go to extrasports1300.com, cast your vote. The leading vote getter will be announced on Friday, and then hopefully the athlete of the week will be joining me. And I appreciate the folks at Rampart and Anaya for making that happen, because that's the best part of it, really, is having them on the show, hearing about these outstanding prep athletes. So appreciate the folks at Rampart making that happen. Let's want to continue the conversation with NFL games over in Europe. And I just can't get past the impact of London on that football game on Sunday. And I just think it had absolutely something to do with really both teams. Right? If I were sitting here talking about the Jets' point of view on this, I would be having the same take. I just don't understand why it has to be the regular season. I understand these athletes are well compensated, but I'm not talking about them as much as I'm talking about you. The product suffers when they go across the Atlantic. And I think the product on Sunday suffered. Broncos defense is phenomenal. Can you attribute any one of the 9 sacks to London? Like, the Jets weren't negatively impacted by going over to London. And now they don't even do the thing where you go to London and then you have your bye week immediately after. They can't do that anymore because of the number of international games they're playing. Broncos got to turn around and play the Giants on Sunday. So now you worry about the impact of London on 2 games. Tucker says, I think you're right about the overseas games, but I believe the Broncos are being given way too much credit for that win. It was the Jets and the Broncos barely won. Everyone beats the Jets. I'm a Cowboys fan and they're terrible, and they beat the Jets. The Chiefs will again beat the Broncos and be AFC champs. That from Tucker. That actually leads into what I want to get into next. So I appreciate that, Tucker. And of course, I appreciate your sentiment about the upcoming Broncos-Chiefs game and how the AFC is going to play out. Do we know who's really good? Like elite. That's the word I'll put. Is there anyone right now in the NFL that is elite, that you would ride with week in and week out? I think there are a lot of good teams in the NFL. I don't know that there are any elite teams. I don't know if there are any great teams, or at least no one has shown that yet. Except there's one exception. I'll get into that. And then there's a couple of teams where we got to discuss whether they are elite. But I mean, it has been a roller coaster ride the last few weeks. Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. And I do think that, Tucker, your point is well taken. Like, just 1 week. Look what's happened in the last week since the Broncos beat the Eagles. The Eagles have gotten smashed by the Giants, and the Broncos offense looks abysmal against the Jets. What is the Broncos fans supposed to think about their football team coming off of the highest of highs, one of their biggest wins, and that team that they beat turns around and gets smacked by a team that we thought was quite poor in the New York Giants, and then the Broncos go over to London and the offense led by Bo Nix looks terrible? What is one to think about the Denver Broncos after that game? Take your thoughts. 719-24/7-1313 coming up next. What are we to think of anybody in the NFL? You're listening to Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in. Hour 2 on this Tuesday. Great to have you. Appreciate you watching the show on YouTube or Facebook or X or Instagram, because it's available in all of those different places at XTRA Sports 1300 while you're on whatever platform it may be. Like, subscribe, follow, drop a comment. It's how we grow our little community here, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I mean that. So much so that I want to reward you with tickets to things, as I'll start to give away Air Force football and switchbacks tickets starting this hour. I was pondering this last night as I'm watching a team that I think is very good in the Buffalo Bills lose a game to a team they have no business losing to in the Atlanta Falcons, followed by a team that I believe is quite good coughing away a game to a team that I don't believe is that good, but I think that the arrow is pointed up for them. I just don't think they're ready right now, and that being the Chicago Bears. Last night was a perfect encapsulation of what the NFL season has been. It is pure, straight chaos. Case in point, there have been 17 blocked kicks in the NFL this season. That's the most we've seen through 6 weeks since 2014. 5 games, at least 5. Depends on what your definition of a game being decided by a block kick would mean. Does it just the game ends? I don't look at it that way. I think there are at least 5 games already this season, basically one a week, that is decided by a block kick. And I can't think of a more chaotic way to decide a football game than a block kick. Right? Broncos were supposed to have one of those, right? And then the leverage call happened against Indianapolis, and you know how that went. And then last year it worked against the Broncos because the Chiefs blocked a kick. I just think it's been chaotic. Like, that's just my overall feeling of this NFL season. It's been chaos. It's been very difficult to hone in on a team and kind of ride along with them. So I looked this up. This time last year, we were having a debate of how real the undefeated Vikings were. And we were having a conversation about how good, if anybody could beat the then undefeated Chiefs. And there was a team at 5-1 through 6 weeks, the Houston Texans. This year, no one's undefeated. The Buffalo Bills, who I thought would be that last team, you know, we always look, when are the 72 Dolphins going to celebrate? It was whenever the Buffalo Bills were going to lose, and I thought it wouldn't be. I thought that they were going to not coast, but I thought for sure we were going to be talking about Buffalo unbeaten till November. And now they've lost back-to-back games. The Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions, who I defended just a couple of weeks ago, saying they were the best team in football, that they deserve credit for winning close games, and I think they do deserve credit. But what has happened the last 2 weeks, or last week, really, because they had a short week going into the Giants game, they blow it against the Broncos. They're the team that's making the mistake. Zach Bond with that personal foul penalty that was completely idiotic, cost them that game. And then they turn around a few days later and get smacked around by the Giant Bros, Jackson and Cam. And it's like, I don't know what to think about the Eagles anymore. What am I supposed to think about the Buffalo Bills? Like the New England game, you could say, all right, division rival, those games are close, right? You remember when the Broncos were not in any way, shape, or form better than Kansas City, but they beat them 2 years ago and they've had really close games. The Patriot game, it's like, that's kind of crazy that happened, but it's not. I've seen it before. So then you have a longer week against an inferior opponent and you lose. Now, I don't know what to think of Buffalo. Take the last 2 weeks for the Kansas City Chiefs. They go from on one primetime stage, their best defensive player, who has been as key as anyone not named Mahomes and Kelsey, to the Chiefs dynasty, just standing there, watching Trevor Lawrence fall to the ground, get back up, and run in for the game-winning touchdown. And then they turn around and they looked far better than the Detroit Lions looked. I think the sentiment that I have is that there are a lot of good teams, right? Detroit, Green Bay, Buffalo. I think Denver's a good team. Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, I think you have to give them their flowers. They're a good team. I think there are a lot of good teams. I don't think that there are any great teams. And there's one team right now that you have to that has a unique blend of we thought they'd be good and they are good, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I would caution anybody that's going to jump off of whatever bandwagon they're on and get onto the Buccaneers bandwagon that the way this season has gone, it's only a matter of time before we're starting to look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and going, what? Now, what's their problem? I think most years we've had either a team that looks like an absolute wagon through the first 6 weeks to kind of be our compass, right? And then everyone kind of falls in behind them. And we've also had, for the better part of the last, 30 years, 2 dynasties. We had the Patriot dynasty. We had the Chiefs dynasty. So right now, and I guess the Chiefs are still a dynastic team, but they don't look it every week. Right? So I think it's more that one team that we can kind of point to and say, well, they're the best. Okay? And we can frame our conversations through how do they beat them? How does our team beat that team? All right. Right now, it's anyone's guess. Adam Schefter put this out today. So if the season ended today, the 2 number 1 seeds would be the Bucs, which wouldn't be that surprising, and the Colts, which going into the year would be very surprising if I told you that the Colts will be the number 1 overall seed. But look at these matchups. The Broncos, maybe not surprising as the current 7 seed, would be going to Pittsburgh in the first round. Very surprising. Number 2 overall seed in the AFC. The Jaguars would go to the Chargers as the 6th seed, Chargers being the 3 seed. And now, because of Buffalo wetting the bed last night against Atlanta, they would be going to New England for the first week of the NFL playoffs. And I remember talking about how upside down the AFC was just a couple weeks ago. Now look at the NFC. The Rams are the 7 seed. The 49ers, who I will hang on with the 49ers till the last day. I will be the last person to jump off the 49ers bandwagon. But the injury to Fred Warner, I'm like, how is this not it? How is this not the death blow for the 49ers season? And you know me, I love Kyle Shanahan. I think he's about as good of a coach as we have in the NFL. It is remarkable what he's able to do. But like the Fred Warner thing, like that's got to be him or Christian McCaffrey. Either one of those two guys get hurt, then you feel like, all right, with everything else going on with Bosa and all the wide receivers and Kittle, and like there's got to be a point where it's just too much. And I feel like maybe the Warner injury might be. But I'll hang on, Niner fans. I'm going to hang on with you till I know for a fact that the 49ers are done. But now the Lions would be going to San Francisco and the Seahawks going to Philadelphia as the 4-5 matchup. So it's been crazy, but why is this happening? I think that's the bigger question. I think it's because we don't have, not only do we not have a dominant team, I think there are a couple of teams, Baltimore, that we thought would be elite that aren't. And it's left this void, and you have, and I hate to bring up injuries, but it absolutely is the case, Cincinnati. I think we have teams right now that just don't look dominant, elite, like Super Bowl contenders. Save for Indy and Tampa. And I don't know how many people are truly buying into Daniel Jones yet. And I think Tampa's really good. I thought they were a Super Bowl contender, but look at the ways they're winning some of these games, right? That's been the other conversation. How many of these teams could be easily the reverse of their record, if not for this, that, and the other? Bucks deserve credit, just like the Eagles did a couple of weeks ago. They deserve credit for being able to pull out those kind of games. But the way this season is gone, who would be shocked if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the next, I don't even know who they play, but let's say the next 2 weeks that they stumble, and all of a sudden 2 weeks from now they have 3 losses. Why is this happening? I think it's because you're starting to see the Chiefs dynasty, the foundation crumble a little bit. Right? They don't look the team that they've been for years on a week-to-week basis. I think, to bring it back to my original thesis today, more Monday Night Football, more prime time, driven by Monday Night Football, obviously, but more prime time and international games than we have had in any season through 6 weeks. That is not a coincidence. Football teams are the most regimented sports teams that you can find anywhere. They are more creatures of habit than any other kind of athlete. And athletes just, as a blanket statement, are creatures of habit, right? Very much so. I think football players are, to a greater degree than basketball, hockey, because they have their set schedule. Yeah, sometimes they may have to play on a Thursday, but that's once a season. Okay. Things might get a little wacky at the end of the year. They might have to play a Saturday game, but it's once a week. Usually get close to a week in between games. But now we're playing multiple games on Monday Night Football. multiple games at the same time, which is terrible for the fans. Last night was ridiculous. Next week's going to be a doubleheader where there are going to be people watching Monday Night Football at 2:00 in the morning where they are. You have more international games. How is that not leading to some of this chaos? I think it absolutely is. You look at some of the teams that haven't been able to realize their potential yet because they've had to take this trip across the Atlantic, or because we're playing more Monday night games, so that means shorter weeks for more teams coming off of Monday night. I think that all of these things are contributing. The new kickoff rule, everybody's getting 5 additional yards on average to start their drive. So it's never one thing. But I think there are a lot of very clear factors here on why we just can't believe in anybody week to week in the NFL. And what you have to decide as a fan, is this good? Is this ultimately a good thing, this chaos? I am one, and I know the way this is going to come across because of the team I grew up rooting for. I do like the clear team to beat. I do like the juggernaut, the Goliath that everyone has to try and figure out a way to take down. Yes, that is a little self-serving for my fandom at this moment in time, but I would say it with the Golden State Warriors in the NBA, the Chicago Bulls back in the 90s. I would say it about the Patriots. I like that there's that. And you can hate that team, but I like that team exists. I don't know that pure chaos is ideal. Eventually, and we're still early, we're 6 weeks in, but eventually I would like to see the cream rise to the top. I have an idea who those teams are, and I like to see it sooner rather than later. It's great that there are these fun stories of these upstart teams. I think what's happening in Jacksonville is really fun. I think what's happening in Indianapolis is amazing. Good for the Falcons last night winning that football game. Good for the Bears. How many people were looking at that game like, oh no, here we go again, Jaden Daniels versus the Bears. I've seen this movie before. So good. There are fun stories, and I'm not anti the little guy here. I just like to have I like to have a ruling class to kind of say, okay, they're great. Now I'm going to measure everyone else against. I don't know who to measure who against. Is Detroit great? I don't know. They lost to the Packers and the Chiefs. Kind of feels like they're going to go through at least one of those teams. Buffalo's lost back-to-back games. The Eagles have lost back-to-back games. The Chiefs look like they're have their head up their backside one week, and then the next week they look like the Chiefs of old. I think it's fine for now. It's a little fun for now. Let's get some teams to kind of prove themselves, separate themselves. Maybe Tampa is that team. 719-24-7. 1313. I want to get into this because I want to play you some audio. It's from a beloved Colorado sports figure, and I want to ask you honestly, if it wasn't this person saying what he said the other day, would you take it as well as people have seemed to take what Nathan McKinnon said the other day after another Avalanche loss to the Dallas Stars? Saturday afternoon, the Air Force Falcons are hosting the Wyoming Cowboys. Always a spirited affair when those two teams lock horns. Kickoff is at 1:30. If you would like to go and take the family, the group chat, coworkers, I'm not telling you who to bring with your tickets. I'm just telling you I have 4 for you if you are the 13th texter to text Falcons and your name to 719-247-1313. That's Falcons and your name to 719-247-1313. A couple of texts here. This from the 719. Don't sleep on the Patriots either, Ryan. I am not sleeping on the Patriots. Not sleeping on the Patriots. Right, and here's the thing about all of these teams as I'm looking at this playoff picture. There is one team that I think is two, one on each side of the bracket, so to speak, that I'm like, what? One is Indianapolis, okay, and one is Seattle. I buried Seattle at the beginning of the season. I did not think that Sam Darnold had a second act, but clearly Kevin O'Connell, as an extension of that Kyle Shanahan tree, has fixed him permanently. Like Sam Darnold's just fixed now. He's just a good quarterback. So I did not think that Seattle would be anywhere close to the 5 seed, and I didn't think that the Colts would be anywhere near the number 1 seed. But even the Broncos, I didn't pick them to make the playoffs, but they're the 7 seed. I thought they'd be like 8, 9. So they're not greatly outpacing my expectations. Pittsburgh, I think, has obviously been helped a little bit by the fact that Baltimore is so banged up. But I like the Steelers coming into the season. Jags, I thought, would turn around. I thought the Chargers were the big. So the point is that there aren't that many shocking teams when you look at how everyone's faring. Like, there aren't many teams that are absolutely shocking. Oh, my goodness. I think I was in the minority when it comes to Seattle. I think a lot of people like Seattle. I think the Colts are the only one that's absolutely shocking. I'm just saying, of this group, it's like every week you're like, oh, yeah, I think this team is really good. And then the Buffalo Bills will lose back-to-back games. The Philadelphia Eagles will lose back-to-back games. In the second game of that, they will get absolutely smacked around by Cam and Jackson, who both look like they played at, what's the name of that place? Blue Mountain State. That's where Cam Scattaboo and Jackson Dart look like they played their college ball. But a lot of these teams I thought would be good. And that's my point. Who's elite? Who do you truly believe is an elite NFL team? I promise you that team is going to lose this week. And you may say, I don't have that kind of power, Ryan. You do. You do, because I have seen it. The Detroit Lions, right? Everybody's, well, Detroit, here goes Detroit. They go into Arrowhead and get beaten quite soundly by the Kansas City Chiefs, who a week ago, everybody's like, they're cooked. They're done. Because they lost to Jacksonville. Which I would disagree with that sentiment, but I would certainly understand why you had that after, again, Trevor Lawrence was allowed to be stepped on, fall down, get back up, and run in for the touchdown. To be followed by Hollywood Brown not even looking for the football. It's been nutty. It's been nutty. It's been wild. I would imagine that there are some teams, and I have my theories on who those teams are going to start to put it together a little bit and go on a little bit of a run here. And then in 3-4 weeks from now, we'll be like, oh, okay. Remember when we panicked about Buffalo? They're okay. They turned out fine. LA, yeah, they're good. Green Bay, Detroit, so on and so forth. I want to play you some audio here. And this is Nathan McKinnon. So the Avs played the Buffalo Sabres yesterday and won. That result could not matter less to me. And if you're an Avs fan, you probably don't care nearly as much about the Avs beating the Sabres yesterday as you care about the fact that the Avs went up against the Dallas Stars again and did not beat them. And I said did not beat them because you know where I stand on overtime in the shootout. I don't care. It's mutant hockey. I don't care about the shootout. I don't recognize the shootout. If you want to enjoy that part of it, that's fine. But to me, that doesn't mean that the Stars beat the Avs, but it really doesn't matter because the more important fact is that the Avalanche didn't beat Dallas. And fans were getting a little bit upset about the lack of production on the power play. And this is what Nathan McKinnon said after the game.
I thought it was really good tonight. Really good tonight. A lot of great chances. I know we were getting booed. I guess they don't really know what a good power play looks like. We had a ton of chances and just nothing was going in, and we finally got one. So I guess they got to boo us more.
Okay. If, just for a moment, let's play a little game here. If that was Jamal Murray telling you that you don't know what good basketball looks like, would you have a problem with it? Of course you would. If that was Bo Nix after the Jets game says, oh, fans don't understand what good football looks like. We were putting together good drives. We just didn't get we weren't putting up points. People would turn on Bo Nix. He wouldn't be allowed back into Colorado if he said something like that. So only by the fact that Nathan McKinnon is one of the most beloved athletes in Colorado and is one of the best athletes in Colorado sports history, and because he's kind of a grump to begin with, those are the reasons why he gets away with that. There's only one other athlete in Colorado that can say something like that and be okay, and you know who it is. It's Nikola Jokic. If Nikola Jokic insults you as a fan, you will be, I don't want to say okay with it, you'll let it slide. Nathan McKinnon, maybe Kel McCarr, now that I'm thinking about it. Bo Nix wouldn't be able to do that. Jamal Murray wouldn't be able to do that. So I asked the question, does that make it okay? Because a lot of people chuckle at it. I don't think Nathan McKinnon understands why the boos were going on. I understand we should all be in our own minds process oriented. But sometimes there comes a point where you're just tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. The Denver Broncos 3 and outs used to occupy this space, right? Whenever the Broncos would go 3 and out, Broncos fans would rightly boo, which is their right. And they were right in doing it. It's not just their right. They were right because it showed once again that the Broncos offense was not doing well. It's the same thing here. The Avalanche power play. Okay, I can agree with Nathan McKinnon to an extent where I say that's probably not the night to start booing the Avalanche during the power play. Right? That would have been the Utah game. But what Nathan McKinnon needs to understand is, one, it is a movie that Avalanche fans have been watching over and over and over again. And two, you're having a lack of results against the Dallas Stars. Who you're playing matters. Yes, there were some processes that were better, and I agree with Nathan McKinnon that they were generating opportunities, but to chastise the fans, saying you don't know what a good power play, trust me, Avalanche fans are as knowledgeable as any fan base that is in this state or anywhere in America. I promise you. Okay. And I would actually give, and this is not pandering, I legitimately mean it, that there are some of the more well-educated fan bases in the state of Colorado than there are in many other states. And if you've been to other states, you've been to other stadiums, you know what I'm saying is true. Avs fans understand what's going on. Okay. Yes, the processes were better. The Avalanche looked more dangerous. The result was the same. And it wasn't even about the power play. It wasn't even about that. It's about the fact that the Avalanche once again are butting their head up against a wall that is known as the Dallas Stars. That was what was behind the booing. And I don't think it's okay that Nathan McKinnon said what he said. And I don't understand why people are just laughing it off. He's insulting your intelligence. He's telling you that you don't understand what's going on out there. You understand exactly what's going on out there. You understand that the Avalanche, once again, are proving they cannot beat the Dallas Stars, which is kind of important for this season, don't you think? Here's Jared Bednar on the fact that the Avalanche won't have to play the Stars until the springtime.
No, I don't care. I would love to never see him again.
Remember that soundbite. Remember that soundbite. Because it will be played if we fast forward to April and the Avalanche bow out once again to the Dallas Stars. And it will be accompanied with some unfortunate news about the future of Jared Bednar as the head coach of the Colorado Avalanche. There are only a few games in a season, and this applies to the Nuggets, and this applies to the Avalanche. You have gotten to a certain level to where every single game doesn't matter. Guess what? You beating the Sabres, no one cares. No one cares. They care about you beating Dallas and Vegas and Edmonton. And the Avalanche, and they mostly care about you beating Dallas. And once again, you lose to them or you don't beat them, right? That's the way to phrase it. You don't beat them again. And Nathan McKinnon's calling out fans and Jared Bednar's laughing that he never wants to see the Dallas Stars again. Not great. Not great for the Avalanche. 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. It's the end of the season, and your Colorado Springs Switchbacks are going all out for Blackout Night. That's this Saturday, October 18th. The Switchbacks play their home finale against Las Vegas Lights. Wear black, bring the energy, and pack Widener Field to close out the regular season. Kickoff is at 6. Tickets almost sold out. Get yours at switchbacksfc.com/tickets. Yeah, be out there. Does not look like the Switchbacks are going to, unless they get some help from other places, which, to be fair, they did last year. They weren't scheduled to play every match of the playoffs at home. So, you know, that's always possible, but as it's looking right now, the path through the playoffs for the Switchbacks will be away from Widener Field. So this truly may be your last chance to see this team in person this season. Highly recommend you come out to Widener Field. Join me. Daniel, congratulations to him. He won tickets to see Air Force take on Wyoming this Saturday. Stop by Falcon Alley, Daniel, and be out there. Love to say hi to you. I am not getting enough credit. Now, I could just stop there and it would be a universally truthful statement. I'm not getting enough credit for calling that Brian Callahan would be the first coach fired. I had that months ago. It feels like months ago. Maybe it was like a month. No, it's definitely before the season started. So Brian Callahan, head coach of the Titans, I could see that the writing was on the wall. He was going to get fired because there was no way that the Titans would be any good this year. There's just no way. And you have an owner who, not that I know, not that I'm intimately familiar with that dynamic, but I do know people who are. And just looking at it from the outside, it does look like the organization, especially the top of the organization, is a little bit fickle. Didn't Rand Carthon, wasn't he the general manager for about 10 minutes for the Tennessee Titans? And Brian Callahan has been there for 2 years, and he's gone. And by the way, where is the owner, Amy Shunk? Nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. Not answering questions. Say what you will about how you feel about Greg Penner or Josh Kroenke. Josh Kroenke has spent many a day. He went on a whole tour, press conference after press conference after press conference. When he fired the coach, he had a press conference. After the season, he had a press conference. When he decided on the new head coach, he had a press conference. Greg Penner, not super accessible, but he's spoken. I believe media members have been able to speak with Greg Penner. Titans owner nowhere to be found. After another quick firing of an important member of the staff. I thought it was going to happen. And you know who I feel for more than anybody else? Cam Ward. Is this going to work now? Does this have any hope of working? I saw an alarming stat. Maybe you've seen this. ESPN. The last 4 number one, the top quarterback taken in the last 4 years. 4 for 4 in their coaches getting fired in their first year. This is why we talk about how we have got to move more of the blame off of these young quarterbacks and onto the coaches and onto the organizations. Maybe more to the organizations than even the coaches. If you had, and this goes for Eberflus in Chicago last year, it goes for Callahan this year. If you had any inkling that you were going to fire this person, if you're like, I don't love this person, right? I kind of think we might be able to do better. Why didn't you just fire Eberflus when you drafted Caleb Williams? Why didn't you do that? Titans, if you had any inkling that you would fire Brian Callahan 6 weeks into the season, why didn't you just fire him before? Is there any way that the Titans would have looked worse if they would have done it before week 1 than they're doing it now in week 6? Sean Payton has talked about this, right? The organizations who are a mess up top and how it impacts everything they do. You want to know why there are organizations that can't get it right when it comes to the quarterback position? Despite us being told year after year after year that there's more gifted, talented quarterbacks in the United States of America than there have been at any time in our history, because that's all young boys want to be is quarterback. And parents are willing to spend gobs of money to make sure that they are developed by the best of the best. We have better quarterbacking talent in this country right now, NFL, college, high school, down to Pee Wee football. Better collection of quarterback talent now than ever in human history. And yet, why don't we have more teams at the NFL level being able to make these supreme talented quarterbacks work? Because of crap like this. Not able to just have a little bit of foresight to be able to say, you know what, I don't love this guy, and I don't think this is literally the let's have children to stay together. Let's have children to save the relationship. I don't like you, and I kind of think I can do better, and I don't really want you around anymore. So let's do the NFL version of having a baby, which is drafting a quarterback in the first round. Let's do that. Perhaps it will save our relationship. It never works. And now over the last 4 years, you have had first round top overall pick Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, now Cam Ward, who are on the fast track to getting absolutely ruined by their garbage organizations because they can't have a little bit of foresight to say, you know what, this guy doesn't work. Let's make the move now and let's set up our quarterback for success. This happens repeatedly, and yet here are the Titans going, let's have some of what they're having. We got to stop blaming these quarterbacks. Got to stop blaming him. And I hope Ben Johnson is exactly what Caleb Williams needs. That was pretty good last night. Washington's done a terrific job with Jaden Daniels. Sean Payton, I know Sunday you don't feel great about the way Bo Nix looked. I do think Sean Payton is developing him in a good way. In fact, we'll get into that topic a little bit coming up next. But there's these organizations, and it's like, and you sit there and go, I can't believe we can't figure out, we have the number 1 pick. How can we not get this right? Because you're introducing chaos, you're introducing change. And Caleb Williams has dealt with more change in his less than 2-year career than some quarterback than Patrick Mahomes has had in his last 10-year career. 719-24-7. 13-13. Titans firing Brian Callahan. So now I think you have to really lower your expectations. As much as you may like Cam Ward, the Titans are ruining him. this is what is happening. Just like the Panthers with Bryce Young, the Bears with Caleb Williams, you hope against hope that they can fix it, but you know that they're going to do everything in their power to screw it up. And this is one of the main things you can do. Play caller, head coach, yeah, you're gone less than a year into it. No patience for the thing that requires the utmost patience, which is developing a young quarterback. 719-247-1313. We'll hit the 3 stories that are driving the show right after this. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Hour 3 on this Tuesday. Appreciate you listening to the show on air, online, or through the Extra Sports 1300 app. And I like it just as much if you watch the show on our social media platforms at XTRA Sports 1300. Programming notes for this evening. Frank Serratori show coming up after me at 6 o'clock. I don't know if the Falcons are into moral victories, but man, that game I was there for on Friday night, they gave one of the 5 best teams in America everything they could handle. I think there's a lot of positives from the first weekend of Air Force hockey. They play St. Thomas this weekend, and it doesn't get a whole lot easier with St. Thomas. So be curious the thoughts of the head coach coming up at 6 o'clock. And then right after that, if you're into this kind of thing, I kind of am, U.S. men's national team up at Dick's Sporting Goods Park taking on Australia. That will be at 7 o'clock. Check in on the boys, see how they're doing. I will tell you that it's not going great. We need the World Cup to be about 4 more years away. But we'll see if the boys put in a good performance tonight at Dick's Sporting Goods Park against Australia. You can hear Westwood One's coverage of that match coming up at 7. In the meantime, your thoughts very much welcome at 719-247-1313. You can call or text them into the show. Keep that number handy as well, because I'll be giving away tickets to see Air Force hosting Wyoming this Saturday at Falcon Stadium. For now, here are the 3 stories that are driving the show. All right, let's start with, you want to hear from Sean or Bo first? Let's hear from the head coach first. Here's story number 1.
We're going to be upset about the pre-snap fouls, the holding, false start, on a 3rd and 1. I think there's going to be a number of things that we're going to look at that we have to clean up with. And obviously that starts with me and our coaching staff.
That was Sean Payton after the win over the Jets Sunday in London. And the man who committed most of those penalties that Sean Payton was referring to, Matt Peart, is now heading to the IR. Apparently, he injured himself very early in Sunday's game, yet battled through it. Credit to him. Played the entirety of the game. It's a knee injury, and Mike Kliss of 9 News in Denver is reporting that he will go on IR to join Ben Powers, who was just put on IR for the biceps injury. So now the Broncos are to plan C at that position, and I don't know how you felt about Ben Powers getting hurt. I distinctly remember me saying not as big of a deal as if you were to lose Garrett Bowles or Mike McGlinchey or even Quinn Meinerz. And then I watched Sunday's game, and I'm like, in the worst way possible, Matt Peart had an impact on that game. So maybe impact of losing Ben Powers. And now you have to go back to the well again to replace Peart. And how are the Denver Broncos going to do that? Do they have to look outside the organization? Are we elevating from the practice squad? We'll find that out But I would say I underestimated the impact of Ben Powers getting hurt, so I'm not going to do the same thing to his replacement getting hurt. Calvin Throckmorton will be taking over for Matt Peart on the active roster. So that is a like-for-like change. But clearly, and with the offensive line being this unit that works harmoniously, it's one organism. You keep chipping away at that, right? You remove Ben Powers, now you remove Matt Peart, now you're elevating guys from the practice squad and throwing them in there. You can only go to that well so many times before it kind of short circuits everything. And I think we saw some of the signs of that on Sunday. It's not a great game for Matt Peart. Perhaps he has an excuse. But it wasn't great. And now the Broncos are going to the guy who they did not think was better than Matt Peart. Getting these repeated injuries at one position, it's not ideal for the Denver Broncos, who are a team that very much needs to get in a rhythm, as Bo Nix pointed out for story number 2.
We weren't in a very good rhythm at all. And, first half, we were going quick, getting the ball to different players, spreading the ball around, getting them in certain defenses where we get softer coverage. And then, obviously there in the second half felt kind of like the opposite. A lot of run-heavy looks, a lot of loaded boxes, and then just complete lack of rhythm.
The Broncos offense and Broncos defense has proven not to be this way, but the Broncos offense is very much, and I'll point at myself here. I am someone who has a set order of events every single day that I have to do. I do this, then I do this, then I do this, and I must have this before I can do this. I am one of those people. And if any one of those things is disrupted, and I'll just use the easiest example of this, if I do not get my coffee before I get into work, it throws off almost my entire day. When I get somebody who says, hey, got this little side project thing that we need to do, that messes with my day. And it's not something that I'm proud of. I'm trying to work on it, but I am very much an order of events guy, order of operations. This, go this, then this, then this, and then it all culminates with the last thing that I do of my workday being this show. The Denver Broncos offense is very much like me, and it is not a complimentary thing that I am saying about them. If they get even the slightest inconvenience, because that's the way I look at a lot of the things that happen to me on a daily basis, they're an inconvenience for me. The more I'm inconvenienced, the worse I perform for the rest of the day. The Broncos are very much the same way. Bo Nix is very much the same way. You inconvenience him by backing him up 10 yards on first down. Bo Nix will not be able to recover. And inevitably, you will be punting the football. And that is something that has existed for every single game of this season. What happened in London is not a new phenomenon. Okay? This is a very delicate offense right now that has to have everything a certain way in order for it to work. And when you send them clear across the world to go to London to play a game against a team that is coached by someone that knows Sean Payton as well as anybody and has correctly identified what you and I have been identifying over the last few weeks, which is the Broncos are a run-first team. Take away the run, make Bo Nix beat you, and he cannot, and that's exactly what the Jets did. This is not new, what happened in London. It's just being exacerbated by the fact that the game was held in London, and I believe that the NFL ruins its own product by continuing to export regular season games to London. And I do think that it exacerbated the issues that this Broncos offense has when you're going up against a very bright defensive mind in Aaron Glenn, who knows your coach as well as anybody. This is the life of the Denver Broncos, and this will be it for a while. It is the defense. They are the way. If this team is going to be in the playoffs, if they're going to go deep in the playoffs, it is going to be because of the defense, not because of the offense. Because the offense just now found what they want to do, and now teams are countering and saying, we don't want you to do that. We're going to take it away. And Sunday was your first kind of example of that. And now do the Giants try to take a page out of the Jets book, just like the Giants took a page out of the Broncos book in slowing down the Philadelphia Eagles, a copycat league. But the biggest takeaway in a positive manner that you take from that London game is that the Broncos defense is absolutely spectacular. And they can play anywhere. London, the moon, a mile above sea level, Arrowhead Stadium, they can play anywhere. That defense will go anywhere and be productive. The problem is the offense, not so much. The offense has to have, like Ryan Kaufman on a daily basis, everything just so, or it completely short circuits everything. Speaking of something that has been quite short-circuited lately, let's go to hockey for story number 3.
I thought it was really good tonight. Really good tonight. A lot of great chances. I know we were getting booed. I guess they don't really know what a good power play looks like. We had a ton of chances, and just nothing was going in, and we finally got one. So I guess they got to boo us more.
That was Nathan MacKinnon the other night after the Colorado Avalanche again failed to defeat the Dallas Stars. And that is Nathan MacKinnon failing to understand what was behind the boos. First, there are very few athletes in the state of Colorado that can say what Nathan MacKinnon just said, insulting the fan base, and people just kind of laugh it off. It's because of who he is as a player, but also who he is as a person. He's kind of a curmudgeon. So everyone just goes, haha, Nathan MacKinnon's calling fans stupid. I don't think that's okay. But I also think it's missing the point. The point is, you're not getting results on the power play, which is following a game against Utah where you weren't getting results on the power play, which followed a game in LA where you weren't getting results on the power play, which proceeded 7 games against the Dallas Stars where you were not getting production on the power play. This is the new version of the Denver Broncos offense going 3 and out. Right? Fans at Ball Arena will boo quickly. At the first sign of the power play not producing, they will start booing. And they are not wrong. Maybe it's not about the process. It's about the result. The result is here are the Avs failing to score on another power play and failing to score on another power play against a team that it becomes more clear every day that goes by that they don't know how to beat. That's what that was about. And so for Nathan MacKinnon to insult the fan base and totally miss the mark on what the booing was about is troubling to me. You can't beat the Dallas Stars. Prove me wrong. One game in, you didn't do it. And so, yeah, if I'm an Avs fan, I'm going to boo. Because the power play was the exact thing that was your downfall against that hockey team last season. The fans have every right to boo. And the Avalanche should be frustrated and angry at themselves that they ran up against the Dallas Stars again and cannot beat them. And they won't get another chance until the spring, which apparently Jared Bednar loves. Bonus clip. This was Jared Bednar after the game.
No, I don't care. I would love to never see him again.
And you may not, Jared, if you don't beat them this year in the playoffs, you may never see Dallas again. Not because Dallas is going anywhere anytime soon, but because you are. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. Saturday afternoon, the Air Force Falcons back home at Falcon Stadium taking on the Wyoming Cowboys. If you would like to go for the 1:30 kickoff, be the 13th texter to text Falcons and your name to 719-247-1313. Taking your thoughts, by the way, on the same number. This from the 719. I wish Jared Bednar would have said, can't wait to see them again. It's like they feel they can't beat them, and that's coming from the coach. And this is the audio, again, that is being referred to here, asked whether he was essentially disappointed that they wouldn't see the Dallas Stars until the spring.
No, I don't care. I would love to never see him again.
Yeah, that's not a good thing, right? This isn't any other team. Like, this would be the equivalent of David Adelman saying the same thing about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Or Warren Schaefer saying this about pretty much every other team in Major League Baseball. The point is, I just feel like it's a little tone deaf from the Avalanche after that Stars game. I just feel like they fail to understand why it matters that they didn't beat that team. Right? There's really only a few teams that the good humor of the Avalanche fan base will be tested. Detroit, always and forevermore. Don't be flippant about any result against the Detroit Red Wings. Don't be flippant about the matchup. Like, care, even if you don't really care because they're an Eastern Conference team. Like, act like you care because the fans want you to care. But number one, with a bullet for this current iteration of the Colorado Avalanche is the Dallas Stars. There is literally every other team in the league. Game 3, you can joke about anybody. You can joke about anybody. Connor McDavid comes in here, puts a hat trick on the Avs and leaves. You can joke like, oh, good thing we don't see that guy very often. Ha ha ha. Everyone would laugh. There's one team that you do not joke about. There's one team that you don't pretend, Nathan McKinnon, like you don't understand why people are upset. It's the Dallas Stars. Where what you say matters, where the results matter. Nobody cares that you went into Buffalo and beat a team that is going through an existential crisis perpetually like the Buffalo Sabres. Avs get zero credit for winning yesterday. Does not matter. The game before it mattered. And look, if the Avs just wouldn't have beaten Dallas, right? If the game plays out that way, then that's one thing. That's not great. That would lead to some similar conversations about, can the Avs actually beat the Dallas Stars? But then when Jared Bednar is joking about hopefully he never sees them again, and Nathan McKinnon is calling fans dumb because they don't understand what a good power play looks like, it makes it that much worse. Now, as to why the Avalanche continue to not beat the Dallas Stars, here's Jared Bednar's thought on that.
It's a frustrating team to play because they capitalize on every opportunity they get. Their goalie makes big saves, and their special teams are really good, right? We win the special teams battle tonight, but they score. That's what they do. When they get a chance, it's in the back of the net, and so we made a couple mistakes. They capitalize on them, and we kept pushing, and then their goalie comes up big in the third period for me.
Look, and this is, I think that the Avalanche are going about things with their goaltender position the right way. And I give Chris McFarland a ton of credit for making the moves that he did last year. He didn't let Georgiev just sit there and the Avs season go down the tubes, trying to see if Georgiev would figure it out. But this is where, if you are the Rangers, if you are the Stars, if you are the Panthers for many years recently, who am I missing? The Winnipeg Jets, at least during the regular season, the Kings when Jonathan Quick was their goaltender. Like, it's what the Avalanche are doing with the goaltender position is a good idea. You know what the best idea would be? Having a goaltender that is worth $10 million. Right? The Avs don't have one. Blackwood and Wedgwood, neither one of them are elite goaltenders on their own. So what the Avs are doing is say, let's take two of them together, invest that money everywhere else on the roster, like Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar, and we'll fortify the group in front of the goalies and be able to make up for the fact that they are not elite. Smart. It's good. Have no problem with it. But in an ideal world, you would have Jake Ottinger. In an ideal world, you would have Shesterkin. In an ideal world, you would have Bobo. But those guys aren't available, right? So what do you do instead? You try to cobble together two, I don't want to say lesser compared to Jake Ottinger. Not lesser as in they're still good goalies, but you get two good goalies instead of one great one. That's the math that the Avalanche and many teams are trying to do. And that's fine. But it would be better if they had Jake Ottinger. Right? Not as many other things have to go right for Dallas because they have Jake Ottinger. Because of Dallas's special teams play, not as many other things have to go right. You could say 5-on-5 in that series last year, the Avs were much better than Dallas. Why didn't they win the series? Because Dallas won the special teams battle and they had Jake Ottinger. So what it boiled down to. And first chance to see this year's Avalanche versus this year's Stars. Stars still very good in special teams, and they have Jake Ottinger. That's not going to change. The Avs got to figure it out. That's why they're putting so much into figuring out this power play. And you could have a problem with Dave Haxtell being the guy to do it, but the fact of the matter is they brought in somebody else, a fresh set of eyes, some new ideas to try and fix this because they know that they can't create Jake Ottinger. Mackenzie Blackwood is not Jake Ottinger nor Scott Wedgwood. So they're doing what they can at the goaltender position, and it's paying off. But they know they have to get the power play right. The penalty kill, I don't have a lot of problems with the penalty kill for the Avalanche. It's the power play. And the Avs know that. I think that's what they believe their ticket to getting past Dallas is. If they can match Dallas's special teams, then then they'll take their chances with, yeah, you have Jake Ottinger, but we have Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar and Marty Necas and Arturi Lehkonen and Valeri Nichushkin. Like, they'll take that, but they got to get the special teams on the same level. And you heard Jared Bednar. They won the special teams battle. They still didn't win the game. But I think over the course of a 7-game series, if the Avs can match Dallas's special teams, then I think the bet they're making is our firepower against Jake Ottinger. We like our chances with everything else being equal. But the question is, by the time they meet in the playoffs, which feels inevitable, will the power play be where it needs to be? It hasn't been so far to start the season. Take your thoughts. 719-247-1313. Back with more Drive Time Sports after weather and traffic. Colorado Springs Switchbacks FC closes out the regular season, the home portion of the regular season schedule. I should be more precise. Saturday night at Widener Field against Las Vegas Lights. So what better thing to do to a team called the Lights than to turn them out? It will be a blackout night at Widener Field. Come dressed for the occasion. Cheer on the Switchbacks. Big match on Saturday night. 2 matches left. Switchbacks have a 2-point lead for the final playoff spot in the West. They need a victory on Saturday. So be out there, cheer loud, dress in as much black as you can find in your closet, and be there at 6 p.m. Tickets going fast. Switchbacksfc.com/tickets. Do you know did you see who's taking over for Brian Callahan in Tennessee? It's Mike McCoy, former Bronco coordinator. If you recall, Mike McCoy was part of one of the more successful recent Broncos teams with Peyton Manning. And then he came back later as wasn't that the super coaching staff? The dream team coaching staff that they put around Vance Joseph, right? Bill Musgrave and Mike McCoy and Joe Woods. Did not work. Did not work out for anybody. I think they started getting fired one by one. It was like they were touring Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. They were just dropping off one by one. Apparently Mike McCoy's in Tennessee now, and he's going to be the interim head coach for the Tennessee Titans and entrusted with the continued development of the number 1 overall pick in the draft, Cam Ward. Now, it's been a mixed bag with Mike McCoy. Can you definitely say it's not going to work or definitely say it is going to work? No. Mike McCoy was very good at one time as a coordinator for the Denver Broncos, and he was very poor one time for the Denver Broncos as a coordinator. I wonder what the difference was. Was it that Mike McCoy suddenly didn't know how to coach? Nope. Personnel. Like, we could go back and forth. Like, you have to know sometime, okay, this is a personnel issue. This is a coaching issue. This is organizational. We've been talking about it. Titans, this is a failure of the organization to go into, not that long after you fired your general manager, by the way, but then you turn around, you draft a quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. And 6 weeks into the season, you fire his coach. Chaos, upheaval. You invite that into your organization. Is it Cam Ward's fault because he's not playing well? No, it's not. I would say it's really not even as much Brian Callahan's fault as it is the organization. But as far as Mike McCoy and how good he will be, I think he's already having to come from behind a little bit here, play from behind, given the fact that young quarterbacks tend to not react well to significant change like that. But the difference between Mike McCoy being a genius offensive coordinator and him being a bad one was simply Peyton Manning. Oh, didn't he get credit for Tebow? Wasn't that kind of where it started? But I'm just, when he made his second go round, the Broncos did not have a Hall of Fame quarterback that is his own offense, that calls his own plays and all of that kind of stuff. So I have my doubts that Mike McCoy will be able to get the most out of Cam Ward, but I don't know who you can bring in midstream 6 games into a season and expect things to go any better. And so, like, I know that people are probably down on Bo Nix. And I actually want to talk about that a little bit more in depth tomorrow, because Drew Brees said an interesting thing in terms of when we should be evaluating young quarterbacks. And I feel like Bo Nix is right around there. So we'll bring up that conversation. But the one thing that you could say is that the Broncos are trying to do things the right way. As much as Sean Payton probably absolutely hates the offense that he is calling, the fact that he has to call run play after run play after run play, that it is ultra conservative, that he has to play the field position game, it's probably driving him up the wall. But I will give Sean Payton credit for the most part. There's been a couple of times where you go, oh, Sean, what are you doing? You shouldn't be calling that kind of a play. But for the most part, he's looked at the development of Bo Nix being more important than him winning style points and being able to put up big numbers. I will say, for the most part, Sean Payton has had that right mentality. But something Drew Brees said, and maybe you want to do the math before we part ways. Drew Brees said this morning, 50 starts, 50 high-level starts. That's when you can evaluate a quarterback. Do the math, because Bo Nix spent his collegiate career in the SEC and the Pac-12 Big Ten. Right? He was in the Big Ten one year with Oregon. The point is, Bo Nix has played high-level college football. A lot of it. And he has started every single game of his NFL career. He's been in the league for 1 season and 6 weeks, and he has started every one of those games. I have not done this math yet. I will wait and do it later. I think he's getting close. Isn't he? If not already there. Have to do that math. And anytime Drew Brees says something about quarterbacking or the NFL or really anything in general, you kind of look like, what about Sean Payton? Is he saying this because Sean Payton, or does he know the mind of Sean Payton? Is this, what I mean by that is, if Drew Brees is saying, in his opinion, a young quarterback, you need 50 high-level starts in between college and the NFL to truly be able to evaluate, could one not make the connection that that would be an opinion of Sean Payton? And then if you sat down and did the math, would Bo Nix not be right around there? I just hope the Jets game wasn't start number 50, because that'd be bad. You can do that math. I'll do it for you, and we'll reconvene tomorrow at 3. But just caught my eye. I was like, I think Bo Nix is just about there. Just about there. What else is going on in the National Football League or National Basketball Association? Jason Kidd signed a multi-year extension. Congratulations. I think if you are able to bite your tongue and not say anything about one of the worst trades in the history of sport, then you deserve to get a little bit of financial security, I think. So Jason Kidd, not that the results on the court would warrant Jason Kidd getting a massive extension. I would say his patience with that organization deserves to be rewarded. And it has been rewarded a couple of different ways because first, he was given Cooper Flag by the NBA. So that was nice of them to do that. And now the Dallas Mavericks are paying Jason Kidd. And for the record, I think Jason Kidd's a terrific coach. He would be, I think, well deserving of an extension, regardless of the situation surrounding the Dallas Mavericks. I just think with the situation surrounding the Dallas Mavericks, he is more deserving of getting a contract extension, given what Nico Harrison did. And you know what still bothers me? To this day, like it's been years after the Luka trade. It hasn't even been a year yet, but it really bothers me that they got Cooper Flag. Still really bothers me that the Dallas Mavericks won the lottery. I hope you can tell by my inflection in my voice that I am making air quotes when I say that. Won the lottery. So, yeah. There's that. Want to thank Anaya Wright of Rampart High School for joining me. Well deserved. Our athlete of the week. Make sure you go to extrasports1300.com to cast your vote for this week's nominees. And then hopefully, like Anaya, they'll join me here on this show. Appreciate your interaction and your patronage. Coming up tonight at 10, if you are so inclined, I will be on KKTV 11 with Corey Roldan talking Broncos, Jets, as well as Air Force, Wyoming. And then we'll reconvene tomorrow at 3, get into that Drew Brees comment and start looking forward to Cam Scattaboo and Jackson Dart, who both look like they went to the high school and varsity blues. So that'll be fun. We'll do that coming up tomorrow. In the meantime, the Frank Serratori Show coming up next, to be followed by the U.S. men's national team taking on Australia live from Denver here on Extra Sports 1300.